I am now live. Let's get on this Instagram. Put my iPad on so I can see everyone. Hello, hello. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I've got my British on today. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Sunday. I just got off a church Zoom, a big church Zoom hangout, so I'm feeling very, very festive, very loved up, very holy. Hello, everyone. I'm going to put this clip on here. I'm playing today. Nothing special. I mean, hopefully. We can cross our fingers that something special will happen, but now how am I supposed to go to the store? I'm so conflicted. Oh, I hope it works today too. Don't worry, I'm actually going to try and save this one and put it up on my blog afterwards. Today I'm committing to that. I'm committing to it. Whether it happens or not is another thing. So don't feel too conflicted. I've been drawing some little random things. Yesterday, after the live stream that I did, I drew these little things. I'm loving these. They're like the Corner Pieces stamp set that I did before, so I might want to have a revisit some of these. I specifically like her, but I also want to get out my pose book that I have all but destroyed at this point. Look, it's a working reference book, so it's not the end of the world. Honestly, I don't know what was supposed to hold up to this amount of pages and this binding, but mine is just completely detached from everything, so what are you gonna do? There you go. It's called Study of Pose. It's a model. There we go. Sort of sticks back together. It's a model and she does 1,000 poses and they're all just photographed. And it's great because it's got a heavy one-sided light kind of reference. So it helps with your shadows as well and helps kind of position bodies. Sometimes I just draw the same positions over and over again. I like to change it up a little bit. So let's start here because we can get a feel for where we'll be heading, I guess. Some of them are really hard to draw. I like this. I might have a go at this. Maybe we'll exaggerate this. This is number 110. I'm going to use my Pilot Color Enol. I usually like to start with the framework of the torso by starting with the shoulders and getting the angle. I'm going to slightly exaggerate this a little bit because even though I've got the reference, I want to stylize drawing. So I'm not going to draw realistic proportions. I'm going to draw the framework, how it's laid out, and then I will proportion according to what I feel like. So it's weird because sometimes you stylize drawings in a way that doesn't actually make sense with a realistic body, but you can make changes as you go. So here on the outside of the shoulder there's a knee. I usually draw the joints after I've drawn the body. I go through all of this in my whimsical illustration course, so I won't go through it again. This is certainly not a lesson, just a day to play. But I like to explain what I'm doing sometimes, just in case you've done that lesson and you think you can see kind of a similarity of what's going on. You probably can. But just because I teach something a certain way doesn't mean I necessarily do it that way every time. I usually like to teach the proper way to do it, and then sometimes when I'm actually doing it, I've either found like little cheats and shortcuts or things that I just omit from the process, and so that's also why I try to explain it a little bit. So there are her legs. She's got the shoulders and the bust. It's pretty front on, so I can just notch those in. An elbow is out here with a back turned hand, but I'm going to switch the hand for a hand that I like to draw. I'm not fond of hands, so I'll usually switch it. And this is, it's actually not even near the knee. It's above the knee. There we go. So there's the pose. I'm liking it. She's got a 3/4 turned face looking down to the side. But I can put whatever face on I want. I also might want to start stylizing this little drawing. Which face do I want? Do I want it looking down? I'll start with it looking down. We'll do a very realistic number. I have to do number 110. So I always like to put the number down so I know, just in case I want to reference it again, what pose it is. There we go. So that's what I would consider like a bit of a stylized framework for my body. Just got all my markings out. And here is the figure that I took it from. So you can see I've started to twist the torso a little bit more and angle it. And I've changed the proportions a little bit, but now I'm going to change it even more because I'm going to grab, I might grab a different colored pencil. Let me see, maybe I'll grab this blue. I'm gonna grab a light blue because now I want to start pushing some of these angles. But I just want you to see the difference. I might actually simplify the whole thing. So I'm blocking in with angular shapes this time rather than how I was doing it before. With all the curves and the joints, these are just going to be very simple shapes. This is kind of like character design and animation. Usually you simplify a lot of the structure. It's actually kind of easier to simplify it sometimes too. I might even elongate that neck and have her face up here. It's just a little bit more exaggerated. Might make her bust a bit bigger so that we've got that contrast between the bust and the waist and the hips. We'll see. It kind of depends on what she's wearing too. So let me put an outfit on. Sometimes I just like to draw a swimsuit just because it really accentuates whatever the body is doing. If you put like a loose fitting top, it kind of destroys the purpose of having a lot of that angle in the body. So I'll usually start with a simple one-piece swimsuit, and that will really accentuate whatever we've done to the body. Let me put a little frill on there. You can really start to see all the exaggeration here now. I've been drawing them with these kind of head scarves on, big bangs. This is just a sketch to get my pose. I might not like it, or there might be something about the proportions that I feel is a little off. I usually put little shoes on them too. I actually don't love these proportions. I think that head's too big. So we'll go underneath and we'll try another attempt where we're actually going to push it even further. So the angles that the shoulders, waist, and hips are on, I'm going to skew even harder. So this time I'm going to put those shoulders up here. I'm going to put that waist here. That's going to be the hip area. And I want to try and draw it a little bit more compact so that she's got kind of more of a curvy shape, which we kind of accentuate by drawing some of her features a little smaller, like her feet really, really small, make this look a lot more curvy. Put this knee out here. And this foot comes in here. Sometimes if I've really exaggerated it, I put an extra little like notch in the body where it probably wouldn't be. Like it's almost as if they've got a double jointed waist, which isn't normal in a human figure, but that's why I like to draw, because we can do what humans can't do. So I'll just keep exaggerating this until I get it the way I like it. I might even hide that hand behind her now, because then I can avoid having to deal with it all together. And because I've twisted her torso a little bit more, this part of the chest will come off, but this part won't. This is going to be a little bit more twisted. And so even though I've used the pose as a reference, doesn't mean I have to finish with that exact pose. I usually just like to do whatever I can do. Here. And that way, if I have her head looking down this way now, I think it'll be a little more dramatic. Yeah, I like those proportions better. There's something about the leg though that this looks like it's too high, so I'd probably have to bring that down so that the foot was in line with about here. So sometimes I will have like second or third legs on a drawing. Like if you look, there'll be another, here, this is a good example of it. This is another leg. You can tell that the drawing was completely different before I decided to make it this long mermaid. I don't erase those or anything because sometimes I might want to go back and try it again. It's easier for me to copy the proportions if those first thoughts are there. So make my decisions accordingly. Might even cut that arm off a little shorter. And if you have like a little face map that you like, you can always pop them on there real quick. Make the drawing a bit more finished. This one's a pretty random one, but it's like one of those cute little illustration faces. Doesn't really suit this style, but sometimes you might accidentally find something that you like. Put her little headscarf on. It's all in pink right now. The reason I like to sketch in the pink is because, especially if you color it in, a lot of skin tones from light to dark will blend with a pink. It can look like it's blushed from underneath. If you do it in any other color, it's kind of hard to get rid of that, so it kind of helps with the pink. This is also an erasable pencil, so that's okay as well. Here's the swimsuit. We better dress her so she's not nudie-rudie. I'm gonna really exaggerate these ruffles as well and have them be about this big. The way you proportion the rest of your drawing relative to your character or your whatever you're drawing gives it a completely different feel. There we go. So, because I've got the shadows on that reference, I'm actually going to put the shadows in. I might do it in a light lilac color. Be a little pretty. So can you see on this book, oh wow, such a small working area. So that's where we started. Didn't love it, wanted to switch up the proportions, change it up a little bit. This one looks a lot cuter to me. So I like what we've done. I like how we've shifted and changed it. This is where it started. So, I mean, you can still tell a lot of the references there. The thing that this reference is also really good for is I can still use it for all the shadows. So I'm going to color in I'm going to match these shadows to this illustration. And I usually just do it pretty simply. If I see there's a shadow on the right side of the neck, or if all of the neck is in shadow, I'll put all of the neck in shadow. If the right side of the body, the shoulder is in shadow, all the right side of the waist is in shadow, I'm just going to copy that. Under the leg, you can see under the leg there's in shadow. I'll copy it first, and then if I feel like it needs more, I'll add more. Obviously on a simple drawing, sometimes it doesn't translate very well because shadows on the face can be very contoured depending on how angular the model's face is. But a general shading is fine. And this is only if you want it to be a bit more dimensional. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes I actually just do a shadow all on one side and just call it a day. But a shadow will help, especially if you've got a lot of sketchy lines, it will help kind of pop your image back out again. And there might be small shadows as well. Like there might be a small one under the bust, there might be a small one on the side of the arm, there might even be a small one on the other side of the face. It really just depends on the contour. But that gives us a nice little shadow. And then, I mean, I would probably call it a day at that. But I do have a little black pen. Sometimes I'll redo the face. This is the Kokoiro letter pen by Zig. It's really fun. It's not waterproof though, so this kind of has to be my last step if I plan on watercoloring. But sometimes just adding a black layer, even if it's not all of the image, even if you're just doing parts of the image, helps just to pop it out a little bit if you've got tons of sketch going on, which I usually do. It's also a nice way, you know how before we were doing those really sharp angular shapes? If you can practice just really committing to each of your strokes, you can put a really confident line into your illustration. It makes it look a lot more intentional. Sometimes people ask why their pieces don't look confident, and I notice it's because a lot of people tend to go about this slow, and tend to go over the same line over and over again, which may not look like much, but you're actually adding little bits of extra weight, line weight, as you go, and it looks like you second guess as you go along the entire time. So sometimes it is easier to practice your strokes and confidently commit to one, because it looks more confident if you see something done like this rather than like this. But it's scary, especially if you've spent a lot of time on your illustration. You don't want to just, rush into lining it. So you want to be confident with your strokes. There's tons of ways to practice. I actually just like to draw to practice. Sketches like this is practice for me, but you could practice with stroke pages. If you're one that does lettering or calligraphy, I'm sure you have printouts of, practice this upstroke and this downstroke. Also not super important. It's only if you want it to look like that. Some people like to take their time to line. I jump back and forth depending on what I need, really. Some days I will want it to look a certain way and I'll just be really slow and careful. I'm going to put this dots on her bathing suit as well. I'm not going to color it in. Sometimes it helps to put a pattern on whatever is fabric, so you can distinguish that from skin if you've got a lot of skin showing. I like dots or stripes. Stripes are really fun for anything that's really contoured, because you can exaggerate the contour. Anyway, well, that's it. That was how we used our reference. I don't know why I ended up talking through all of that. That was not my plan. I was just going to sit here and enjoy myself drawing, but that was enjoyable. So maybe we'll just keep doing some of this. It all helps. It all helps to have these different poses available to me. We'll probably try something more like this time. So I'm going to look for a sitting pose that I could put on a square or a box. because I was having a good fun doing that. Let's go to this page. This is a Dylusions sketchbook, I should say. It's the large one. There's a lot on here. Let's go back to our book. We're going to have to draw a square and then sit whatever pose she's doing on it. This is really fun, this one, but I hate drawing that view of heads because if you really look at it, you can't see anything. It's just nose and eyelash. But from a terrible angle, it's a really hard angle to translate, especially if you're doing a really simple drawing. Cross legs is fun. She gets into all kinds of poses, this chick. Her name is Coco Rocha. She's a Canadian model. She's like supermodel. That's interesting. 125. Remember that. If I ask which one I said was interesting, it was 125. This one's fun. I could just do it with a different head. Oh no, I love this. Like, what on earth is that? 131 is the one I'm gonna do. Let me get my little stencil. Got a little square stencil. I want to do it big enough so you can see. I'll probably do it with this one. Okay, so if I'm going to draw her on top of this, if you have my corner pieces stamp set, this one here, this is how I created those. This little stamp set, I used to call them my little summer dolls, my little summer Barbie dolls. They're designed to sit on straight lines and on squares and on the edge of boxes, on the top of a postage stamp. But there was a ton of different things. They're kind of just sitting there or they're just laying on the edge. But this is how I created them. We'll go through it. So if you're looking to create one, you could totally use this technique. It's not crazy. I just start with the hips is I guess what I should say. That's literally the only thing that matters, is starting with the hips. But I'm going to do the same process I just went through before. So start with the hip. I'm going to have to do this a little bit smaller because this is a pretty upright pose. Her waist. It's a profile, so I don't typically draw profile bodies that much. Put her shoulder joint in here. The bust. Again, really exaggerating the proportions here. These would not be realistic human proportions. My knee joint to my hip. So we can do my thigh. I like these ones to have a pretty a round hip seat area. Backside? What's the right word for that? Hello everyone, happy Sunday. And then this foot comes here, so I need to put that foot on. And there's the knee joint. The knee joint is actually further than the other knee joint, so I have to keep that in mind. And then the thigh disappears behind here. Yeah, that looks like it works. It's a little wonky, but what are you going to do? What are you realistically going to do about it? She's got these crazy arms that are like bee sting arms, I guess. I mean, no, that doesn't look like a bee sting. I'm referring to, we used to do a show called Invitation to Dance. It was ballroom, and we had this move in shebangs, and they would say it was like a bee sting. That's what this reminds me of. It's like, that really only makes sense to me, I guess. And she's got her head down. I really like the other one that I drew had this really tiny part of a face like down here, and it had a massive head. I just liked that proportion, so I'm gonna try it again. Oh goodness, it looks like the reindeers that I was drawing at Wizarding Artists Society. It's okay. There we go. And her hands. Let's put her little hair on. I think it was probably the hair that made me like it more than everything else. She had this little bob. Curly bob. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's going to be a bit much for me. It's just so many lines on there now, I can't even draw on top of it. Let's erase some of it. There we go. I'm just going to do closed eyes with lashes. Lanches. Start carving out that body. So I guess what I'm saying is I use the reference until I get to the point where everything's where it needs to be. And that's where I start simplifying lines. Wherever there's like a shoulder, an elbow, a hip, a waist, like I can make that at one line instead of it having like this joint to this joint to this joint to this joint. I will start to go over it and smooth it all out. Didn't need that. I do love that. I love the proportions of this. I think it's really fun. Gonna put her little swimsuit on so we can see what she looks like. I think that's it. So this is our little, I'm gonna move this. This is her sitting up on the box. What did those summer dolls' faces look like? Oh yeah, they were just teardrops with eyelashes. So it's kind of the same, just a little bit different. Let me get another one of these boxes. And we can do, I'll do a smaller one here so we can have more room at the top if we need to. Hey everyone. Okay, that was 131. Need to find a new one. Oh, I love that too. So dramatic. Oh wow, look at that. She's so flexible. She probably does yoga. All right, I just need a pose. Can you give me a pose? I really want it to be seated or laying. I don't really want it to be like propped up or anything because it kind of defeats the purpose of having it sit on the corner. So funny. I wonder if I could do that one. I'm going to give this one a go. $2.91. I would never choose to draw something like this, so we'll see if it works. It kind of looks like a whole triangle when she's all said and done, so I'm going to put a triangle in there. All right, the hip is over here, and the knee is right at the top of the triangle. That's how that joins. And that foot ends up over here. And there's a hand that comes out from here. This is so random. that goes on that foot. But it's this shoulder, which is now a back. And there's a hand that comes across this this knee. Shoulder. And then I'm gonna do one of those big heads again. It's an alien. I might have to draw over this one with a pencil or something, or a pen, because there's lots of sketchy lines. I can see it because I know where I've drawn, but this is going to be really hard to see. Give her a little bob. I like that simple hand. Oh, there's another leg. Where's that leg coming from? Down here. The knee is by... This foot goes here. And what if this one's my favorite? I can't really see because it's in shadow, but I think it joins back in here. Yeah, that's it. Put this in. That is really funny. Okay, here she is. I think it's kind of cute. It's $2.91. Order number 291. This is the chick. This is her pose. I think we did a pretty good job, to be honest. Oh, let's grab a pen so I can just punch out some of that detail. And use a Muji pen. Why not? This is just a gel pen. A few of the styles I've been playing with are kind of morphing together to make these alien looking waifs, which I'm not mad at, but it's an interesting aesthetic. I'll say that much. I've got that lo-fi Christmas music on. It's just a playlist. It's my Christmas Zoom playlist from Epidemic Sound that I played for our Merry Mix Media Live party. It's This is so random. There's a bit of random open space like here and here that I would probably try to fix. That's funny. Okay, well, I really like that one actually. Let's do something for real and like try and color it in and finish it. And she's back to standing again. Sorry, Coco, but we don't need you standing today. This chick can pose in any shape and still look like a model. It's not fair. This is cute, but like with a different head, like if we had a little different deer head. Oh, she's standing up again. Get on the floor, please. I wonder if she, like, her and the photographer chose to do this in any particular order. Because there's nothing in this book except for the poses. Like, there's no index or something that says, like, poses for trees or, you know, outdoor poses. Indoor poses. Poses for people with 2 left feet. I joke sometimes about bringing this book to Steve's photo shoots and making people do these poses.
Hi.
Imagine, I was like, okay, we want you to do this.
Are you live?
For your headshot. Yes, I am. Hello.
Can you do that one?
Yeah. I just did this one.
Oh, that's totally the...
You can see it, right?
It's 1,000 poses, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Fun. I'm gonna do work.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I don't know what she's doing. Come on, I just need one pose that's going to work well. I don't even know what I'm using to make my decisions. Like, what's my head thinking that I can't just choose one of these. Okay, I'm gonna move this back because this is probably getting a little much. Oh yeah, 125. Good memory. I'm gonna put it on 125. See, what a waste of time. Okay, this is 125. This is the one we're gonna do. Whether we like it or not. Now I'm looking for other ones. I just have to see what's here. Okay, no, we'll do 125. Or 126. Some of these are so funny. Hey Beth. I've changed my mind again. I'm not doing 125. It's too similar to the other one. This is cute. And it's kind of simple, but we'll work with that idea. She's kind of making her own bunny ears. I won't bother doing the legs or anything. We'll just do like from the kind of the hips up. Here's the hips. The waist. The arms. The head. Okay, shoulders, they're slightly lifted, so we'll make them a bit higher towards the face. There's an elbow, symmetrical-ish. Hand. And a hand. I'm gonna make them a little thick, these limbs. She's cuter. Chubbier. I feel like that's too long. Oh, hey Linda. Love your sketching poses. What were the names of your other poses? I loved have it. Yeah, the I'm falling over because I have a migraine. Or something similar. That is one of my favorites to model myself. Okay, let's put her hands maybe a little further out here because then they won't have to make her arms so long. And maybe I could just put her elbows down here so that they cuter. Probably should have just drawn it smaller. That's the thing, when I work in different size journals, I prefer an A5, so when I work in a bigger one and I end up drawing bigger, it always feels more foreign. feel the same. A5 is right for me. I've been mono printing and the plate is 9x14. Oh, that's huge. Yeah, some people prefer to draw big. Today was my intention was to get on here and draw big. Yes, Linda, they are the deer eyes. I tell you, when I get on a kick, it could last like 3 days or 3 weeks, but those deer eyes it's a 2-weeker at this point. Might even give her a little deer feature. There's my pencil. I'm gonna do tiny little antlers right here. Goodness, I hate when the lead just falls out. Oh, I keep breaking this. What's going on? Maybe I got a bad lead. Little bib. I think I'm ready to give up on this one. Not because I don't love it. I mean, I don't love it, but because I think I want to try drawing something full page, like a full page face or something, and then just watercolor it in this Dylusions journal. I feel like that would really bring me back to my roots a little bit. And I'm feeling like I'm in a good Christmas trance. Put her little thumbs on. Sometimes I'll just draw the thumbs and then a round kind of oval shape for the rest of the hand. It looks like mittens. It's a good way to trick people into thinking that you drew hands properly. Well, properly for a simplified way. More than just a scribble, like I would do anyway. Let's get rid of this. I do really enjoy this one though. She's funny. And this one, I think that's funny too. Let's go full page on this. Okay, get rid of my pose book. Don't need Yoru. Let's pretend I have just started art journaling. It's 2015 and I know now what I know now. I would probably be doing some massive page that I would have prepped for about an hour or 2 hours. I used to draw big lips all the time with those buck teeth. So let's go back to that. I used to care a little bit more about realism. See if I remember what that's like. Oh, I used to draw that little shadow in all the time as well. Wow, it's like coming back to me now. I started with the I started it the way I used to start them all, so now it's all coming back. Thursday. Pull out the Delusions paint if you're going way back. Oh, I know, girl. It's still in the tin, in my tray over there. Some of it's dried out, but some of it had that since 2015. So honestly, I'm surprised it made it. Yes, Linda, I will talk through it. So if you want to watch the replay, I won't like explain everything like I'm teaching, but I'll kind of talk through my ideas and my thoughts. I'm just rounding off some of these sharper edges on the face. I generally like to have my ears a bit lower set. And that's not a new thing. I've just always preferred the ears down here. And I kind of prefer pokey outy ears. I don't know if it's just a way for me to cope with my own ears that poke out a little bit. Or if it's because a lot of my favourite people have pokey outy ears. But I like them in this hollow of the cheek here. And then usually about where that direction changes, that's the top of the cheekbone, and so I'll place the eyes around here, really wide set, and I'll generally go for like the size that I want the eye first and then start drawing it in. I always used to, and most of the time still do, draw these very like sultry kind of fashion eyes angled down into the face, with not a lot of the eyeball actually showing. It's more lid than it is eyeball. In fact, in olden days, I used to actually cut off the bottom of the eye and use that lower lid as well. Looked like it was more glaring that way. And then I would extend this eyelid at the top. Sometimes I'd even have a double eyelid, which isn't a natural human thing, but because I like to put so many colors there, sometimes I would do a few eyelids just to have more option. Today I'll just do this single eyelid up here, and then I'll start the brow. Usually I'll copy the same arch at the top of the eyelid, and then choose, that's the very neutral brow for me, and then choose if I want it to be a bit more severe, I'll have it angle up. Or if I wanted a bit more whimsical, I'll probably have them angling slightly down. But I do like a high arch. And if it's free to color, I'll just connect it in the middle. Just because this was always more like of a fashion look, and I'll curve in this side. Got all that space up there to work with. I always love a good side eye, so I'm going to put my pupils in the corner over here. And I usually have a couple of catch lights. And that's before I put the lashes on. Usually when I put the lashes and the eyeliner on, I bring everything down even more. And I start to slice into that eye even more. So really, you're barely seeing any whites of the eye at the end. And that's how you get that really alluring kind of sultry look, because it's it mimics squinting, which in a lot of circumstances, if you've got like a smoky eye and you've got a bit of a squint, a bit of a glare going on, you don't see much of the whites of your eyes. And I just love the lashes because it pulls it out and up. I usually put the lashes only on the outside. I used to. Oh, and I always used to draw a beauty spot. By the mouth or by the eye. Okay, let's put in a hairline. Kind of copy the arch of the brow of the top. I like to give it a big 5 head rather than a 4 head. And then I'll poke back in for that more soft hairline. Ultimately, it's semi-heart shaped, but it's more of that Disney villain shape, just without the widow's peak, really. And then I've got to choose a hairstyle because that's where it all kind of departs from here. But before I do that, I've got it tilted to the side. I always loved these long neck kind of busts. So I would only draw up until the shoulder area about here. Put my little shadow on underneath the chin to separate it from the neck. A long, thin neck. But even around the edge of the shoulder, I wouldn't draw the rest of it. Sometimes I would specifically even cut it off so people knew I didn't draw the rest of it. Because I just like the bust. It reminds me of those Barbie doll heads when I was younger. And you could just sit the head on the table and play on the head. I loved those because I loved giving makeovers. So that was a little model that couldn't scream at me when I pulled her hair too much, like my sister. So that's where we're at now. I know that the angle you're at probably shows it a bit more skewed than that, so I just wanted to show you. Now let's choose a hairstyle. Whatever it is, if it falls down, it's actually got to fall down this way because the gravity is still up and down. It's still vertical, even though we've twisted the head. So I don't know if I want something up or something down. I mean, I used to love lots of flowing locks. So I think I'll go back there. I mean, I've drawn the hairline in, but at this point it doesn't really matter. I can kind of rub it out if I get confused by it. There's a side part going on. Even still, at this point, I could choose to have it up or down, because this is just the hair that frames the face, kind of the bangs. But I think I might have it down. So it has to fall down here. I know I usually teach not to push the hair too far out until you get past the ears, because it makes it look like it's been teased. But because this head has shifted, it kind of all laws of gravity are in effect. So it has to still come down this way. But I still kind of take that same idea where the hair doesn't get bulky right up the top. There's still that dip in the hair before it starts to get thicker at the bottom. Because the weight of this bottom part is pulling down here, so it's nice and thin. I mean, it's not technical, you don't really have to take that into consideration. It's not going to make you the best drawer in the world, but in general, it just looks a lot nicer that way. And I try not to add too much detail in the hair. Just more direction lines. And the more I add, the more the hair is flowing and see, on this side it still kind of works. You just don't go out until you get to the ear area. And like I was saying earlier, those big confident strokes just work out a lot better. There we go. You can kind of leave it at that. Sometimes in the past, I would also give her some hair that maybe even like crossed her face. Oh, and you know what I always used to do? Chokers. Always had a choker on. Wow, we're really going back old school now. The chokers, I loved a bit of earring as well. I think we might just leave her plain. Let's get to watercoloring. This is what she looks like now. She's all ready. Now, I don't claim to have the best watercoloring skills on this Dylusions paper, but we're gonna give it a go. It is what it is, Santa. Where's my... this one. My green leaf and blueberry has a lot of the skin tones that I like to use. So I'm just spritzing them first. I'm actually going to spritz my paper as well. Just get a little damp. That way everything's going to flow a little bit better. Sometimes I use the back of my hand and push that water into the page. It's actually smushing around that pink. So I guess don't do that if you don't want that to happen. I'm using an Escoda brush. This is a size 10. And I might start with this orange ochre. I'm going to put this around the edge and into some of those shadow areas. I mean, we drew everything. We're probably going to just watercolor over everything now, so I guess take everything with a grain of salt. The audio papers are going to work differently. If I did this on regular watercolor paper, it would probably still remain a lot more visible. I'm going to start with this, and this is not watercolor paper, so it's not going to flow a lot. You're actually going to get a lot of those brush strokes. So we should probably go for something a bit more, what's it called? Expressionistic. Lots of layering. Not too much scrubbing, because we don't want to aggravate the paper, since it will start to pill. But just as we go, I'm working from my shadow areas into my highlight areas, and just making sure anywhere that I want it to be really highlighted, that I don't really put any of my watercolor in there. So usually just on the cheekbones, the eyelids, and under, and then right in the middle, the nose ridge. Through the chest as well, like the neck and the chest. I usually leave some of that open on the shoulders. And now I'm going to get some of my color, because it's still wet. I want it to blend a little bit. I'm going to put some of that red. It's a strong red, but it's going to dull down a touch. I'm going to put it on the outside of the cheekbones, on the outside of the ears a little bit, even on the outside of the shoulders. I'm going to blush the shoulders a touch. And some in the forehead. If you mix some of the color around the page, it won't look so stark where you've put it. I might even add it to the lips. Get that going a touch. And the rest I'll dab off on the nose area. So if you blur your eyes, you can start to see that our shadow areas are developing and that there's an overall kind of map of things going on. You can kind of see a face under there. Yeah, the Dylusions paper, I actually kind of enjoy it. It's different to watercolor paper. It's a manila cardstock. So actually, I don't know if the new ones are. These are really old, these ones. But this manila kind of cardstock, it acts as a pseudo watercolor paper. It's thick enough to handle it, but it will definitely pill if you add too much. Like I can already start to see it pilling a little bit. But I like it. It's kind of feathery. It holds the watercolor. It doesn't bleed through or anything. Yeah. Everyone has a preference, don't they? Now, what color for the hair? I think I might go... Might go for like a tan, almost honey blonde. And I'm going to smush water everywhere so that I'm not getting a neat line on the edge of the hair. I want it to flow a little bit and bleed. That's just because I'm working rough, and if I've got any harsh lines on the edge, it's going to make it look like I tried to make a neat line, and I didn't. Like, I don't mind having some white areas, I don't mind having some of the brushstroke texture still pick up in there. So as I put it down, I just clean my brush off with clean water, and then blur the edge out. That way I can keep it all soft. Oh, mint! Mint would have been a really cute color for the hair. We're definitely going to put some purples and pinks and blues into everything, so we'll probably find a way. Okay, let me dry this layer with the heat tool. Have a sip of my coffee. Oh, thanks, Linda. It's been a while since I've kind of just talked through my process, so... It's kind of helping me remind myself a little bit of what I used to do. I'm going to grab a smaller brush this time, not tiny. This is an 8, so we're only going from a 10 to an 8. But this time I'm going to take more of this. I'm going to use colors now. Like, I'm not going to use the earth tones that I was using before. I'm going to start to use purples where my shadows are. This is a light purple. And I'm almost kind of bringing the detail back out. Even on some of that eye. Some purple on that nose area as well. If anything gets too wild, just grab some water and smudge it out. Kind of clean it up or erase it. This is a lighter lilac. This is a bit more opaque, this one. And put that in the cheekbone. The only thing you want to make sure is you're not taking a lot of those dark colors down into that chin area, unless you're going to be very careful. But that's why I usually like to flip it and then go under the chin. Reinforce that shadow. Because if you get a lot of the dark colors on the chin, it'll look like a 5 o'clock shadow. Which is, like I always say, fine if you want that. It's just not something I want. So I'm putting all these purples into this shadow area. Purple's a nice kind of whimsical shadow color. Teal is pretty as well. So once I put all the purples there, I'm also going to go back in with the teal and start to put that in there as well. It's still wet, so it's going to feather out and bleed. Not a lot because it's not watercolor paper. But I trust that however much it does feather out will be enough for us. The thing I've got to be careful of is that I've just remembered, every time I used to do this sideways, I would forget to check what it looked like this way. And inevitably, it's actually happening. I skew the face towards me, so it looks fine on the right side, but on the left side, you can start to see everything is warping. So usually I face it to myself so I can do the face upright and get it a little more symmetrical. So I'm going to remember to do that today, even though it's pretty late for me to do it now. But let's put that nose shadow in. Sometimes it just means bringing some of your shadows in closer, you know, notching off that edge a touch. And put some under the chin. There's no shadow reference for this. I'm just making it up as I go. putting it on the areas I would typically put it in anyway. If watercolors gets too tricky, if you're not confident or comfortable blending with watercolor, you can definitely do it with pencil. I don't see it makes much of a difference. You get a different texture. Let's get some of this light green and put that in here. That's pretty. And while that's wet, I'm going to grab some of this teal and dab that in. Let that mix a little bit. This is just the color of the eye. We're not going to put the pupil in just yet. And I'll get a white paint pen and put some highlights back in. This is the purples that I was using. I forget which this one is. I always forget what this light purple is, but the other one was Daniel Smith Wisteria. And this is more of that honey color. So with the honey one, I'm going to focus it closer to the face and under the face, like under the chin, because then I can let everything else fade away into the background. I really actually only want to focus all in here because this is where I'm going to do all my detail. So I don't need to paint all the way out to the edge, just nice and deep and rich towards the center of my image. If you want to, you can paint the edge for sure. Some people have the time. The time, the energy, the patience, the will, the desire, the fantasy. Me, not today. Sometimes. But my fantasy today is to get back into this face area. Put some of this in here, this purple. And I'll only take a touch down to the nose on this side because I don't want to make it like albatross wings from the nose. It can easily look like that. Blue. I don't think I put any blue in here. Let me grab this blue. I'm going to focus some of this blue in the top of the eye, because this is where it's going to start to get really dark and sultry. Let that blend on the outside. I usually put a lot of shadow and color and vibrancy on the outside of the eyes. Makes it a lot more alluring. And a touch of the blue for the eyebrows. I've kind of replaced those eyebrows because the original sketch is gone, but we can fix all of that if we need to. Lips. I'm feeling pinky orange. Let's go for this peach fantasy. Might just color in the lips and then come back over with my white gel pen for highlights. Bit of orange. There we go. Top lip is always darker than the bottom lip. Typically. It's hard to tell these days with Photoshop. Usually you can balance everything out and tone everything, but naturally people have a darker top lip than they do have a bottom lip. So sometimes I do that. Even if it's a color, I'll still try to make the top a little bit more rich than the bottom. And the choker, let's do it a light purple. Great, let me dry this. And I'll give you a pretty close look at how this looks on the page, because you'll see a lot of feathering. It's not a lot of bleeding, it's just a lot of feathering. Like, it's very slight, but you can totally tell that it's everywhere. And I think that's the difference in using the Dylusions paper over a watercolor paper. You're not going to get a ton of those, soft, floaty blends, but you'll get a really kind of raw, natural texture to it. Everything looks like a little ink bleed. Okay. So here is a look. Oh, the sunlight's streaming in. So you can see that. Let's get some pencils and start to work some of this in. Oh, almost knocked over my coffee. So I've got a purple pencil here. These are really opaque, so I can start to reinforce anything that I want to have a bit more clarity. I'm going to work on the eyes first. I just love working on the eyes. I'm usually just drawing back in all the details I lost. I could do it with my pink pencil, my Color Eno. It's just a different type of feeling drawing with a mechanical pencil and drawing with a regular pencil. And sometimes the Color Eno lead isn't as forgiving to work with in mixed media. Like sometimes pens don't love to work over the top of it. But the pink is nice and soft, so sometimes it's nice to bring it back in. Especially for some smaller details like in these lips. We're just tightening up the tiniest of details to make it look sharp. And there's a really nice contrast to like make it really sharp in some areas and really detailed, and then have it really soft. Like I'm not going to outline those lips again. I might add some more color in there, but I'm not going to outline them so that they've got a harsh outer edge, like a harsh lip line. I kind of like it. I like that it's got that ink bleed, that natural look to it. I'm just going to add more color. Because if you start to sharpen all the outlines again, it's a pretty slippery slope, and I find myself end up redoing everything. It's like I just redraw the entire thing, and then I lose all of this natural quality of the watercolor. Let's make this pink, put some pink out here. It's got a little dull on the edge. Might even put some orange in here. I like those orangey peachy lips. I think that would be a pretty color to put somewhere else. I do have a light lavender color as well. This one's probably a bit better for some of my softer shadows. If you're a little heavy-handed, just pop your pencil on the side and this angle here, rather than going over the top. You tend to press harder, hold your pencil back and pop it on the side and just shade that way. You'll just get the edge of the pencil. It'll be a lot softer. There'll be more texture to it, and it's obviously harder to control in small areas, but lots of light layers of blending works better than a few heavy ones with pencils. If you burnish the pencil into the paper too much straight up, you will create a resist. You won't really be able to work on top of it very easily. Oil-based pencils are a bit more forgiving for that. But any of your wax-based pencils, they'll give you a wax bloom. It'll be really hard to work over the top of. But I'm not super interested in a ton of a ton of layers of shading with the pencil, just a few, just to pop my shadows back in, and then add any color that I think might be a little lost. But like I said, I'm not really going to outline anything. I don't want to bring attention to everything again. I don't mind if some of these details have receded. Sometimes I'll just work on the eyes, and that'll bring a whole bunch of attention to the eye area, and I really like that. Could probably try and dull this down a touch. It's a little too orange now. Some people also grab a really light color, like a white or a blending pencil, an invisible kind of pencil. It's like a clear, and will burnish over the top of everything to blend it all together. It kind of like merges it, flattens it, I guess. I don't love to do that because I like a lot of that watercolor texture. But for people that like really smooth blends, I understand why that's appealing. I would just choose to smooth some of the areas and then leave some of them more rough. It also helps working with a mirror or a camera, so you can get a zoomed out look. Like I can see this on the monitor and I'm seeing areas that I would probably add something or put a little extra something on. So, where's my white? I have a white Posca paint marker here. I'm just going to put this in areas where the highlights are completely gone. I'm going to put it on and then I'm going to dab it in. I used to do it on the nose, just above the lips. Right in the middle of the lips. I like to do these layers as like kind of smudgy dabs, and then I'll go over with a white gel pen and put the final little dots and dashes, my little Morse code highlights on. Because this one will give me a soft shadow, a soft highlight, sorry. And the other one will give me a really nice bright one. Even the top of the eyelids here, I'll have to pop those back out. They tend to get a little lost. Some of the eye, if the whites of the eye are disappeared. Under the brow bone. The brow bone's a little lost at this point, but that works for me. And then I'll grab, I think I might grab one of these red blue pencils. Sometimes I don't like to go back in with the black. I'll do my final bit of detail with one of these. This is generally just the pupil, the eyelashes, and the eyeliner. And any of the shading around the eyes. Because black is so harsh, but there's already blue on this. So the blue won't look as stark of a contrast. And I'll typically just outline the way I drew it. I can't really see it at this point, so I'm just kind of redrawing it. Or it's like putting makeup on. And I just focus on the areas that I want to bring back. It's usually more the outside of the eye. I do a bit of soft shading underneath that line. This is where it starts to get more sultry. Maybe I want darker eyeliner, so I'll just make it a bit more bold. I don't mind if my eyeliner goes off the side of the face. A lot of the times my eyeliner and my eyelashes will go off the side of the face. I'm going to bring a bit of that shading underneath the eye as well. If you've done my whimsical illustration course, you'll know that I put so much of my shading on the outside of the eyes. You'll find most of the color, most of the depth, most of the shading on the outside of the eyes. And that's why I give myself a lot of space to work with over here. It's a personal preference. Some people like to shade more in here. I like the middle of the face to be more open. It's also a good time to... Huh?
I'm watching your favorite.
What? The Grinch? What is it?
Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh, it's not my favorite. Don't listen to Steve. Alright, I'm putting back in the smallest little details with this blue. Only under the nose, this very center of the lips. I might even just outline just the side of the cheekbone as well. And I'm only doing that because I lost some of that on this side when I started to warp it. I'll do a bit of the inner ear. This is such a light touch. Sometimes even just under the chin, just a touch. And then really soft flicks. Until I get to the edge of the brow, then I kind of go a little bit darker. Put her beauty spot back in. And then where her neck connects, I'm going to put a bit of a line back in here. Great. Now I need a pupil. I'll put the pupil in just solid first, and then I'm going to grab my white gel pen and I'll be ready for my final highlights. Where is it? Here. So some of this is pretty highlighted because of the white, but like on the lips, I can put a bit more. And I do dots and dashes or Morse code. Right in the center of the eyes here. Obviously right in the pupils, I'll put a few. Some scribbles up in the eyelids. The brow bone. I go highlight crazy in the top of the ears sometimes. If it gets too much, you can use your finger to kind of dab it away a touch. I'll even put some on the top of the cheekbone, like highlighter or glitter. Lots of little dots. Run a line down the neck, some on the shoulder. I'll scribble down here. There we go. The only other thing I might add is a bit of this yellow or green. I think it's, what is this? Mustard, it's yellow. I'll put a bit of this underneath or on the outside to kind of sharpen the edges a touch. Or especially if I wanted a few strands to go across the face. I can grab my pencil sharpener. I like to get a sharp, kind of a sharp tip if I'm going to do strands of hair. And we'll just do strands close to the head and again, have them fade off to nothing. I don't want to do too many though. This is too much for me. What am I going to do? I'm not going to erase it. Kind of erased. It's not too much. I think they were going in the wrong direction. There we go. I don't know. I think I'll just leave that area. stop trying to make that happen. It's not going to happen. And because her hair is really fun color, I'm going to put some of this color in the eyes. The eye usually features, like in any of these drawings that I love to do, the eye probably has every single color that I've used in the piece somewhere in it. Like it's either in the eyeshadow, it's in the iris, it's in the eyelid, it's under the eyeballs, it's in the blush. It's like somewhere around this area you'll find almost every single color I've used in the piece. I don't know why, I just get the urge to go back to the eyeball whenever I pick up a new color or a new medium. But there you go. She's done. That was fun. My goodness, she looks very much like that old school style of art journaling that I first was introduced to years ago. That was so much fun. I'm going to put the date on here so I remember. Today is Sunday, December 2020. Oh, that's funny. It's the 20th of the 12th, 2020. Or 12/20/2020. And I'll put IG live. I always forget to date everything. Okay, so today we did her. She was a lovely return to my roots. We love to return to our roots. We did these little chicks. Still can't get over that one. Possibly might bring back those corner piece stamp sets now that we have a few more interesting poses to add to the mix. I'll just have to choose the style that I want to do it in. And then we did these. We were working with the pose reference, starting with the pose, then exaggerating the pose, and then taking the pose and working it even further to make it work for us. Which was actually really fun to go through. Here is a look at the other little things that I was inspired by, working with those kind of corner piece ideas from before. I did that last night. Anyway, I'm going to stop the live stream there. I'm also going to see if I can get this recording off my phone and onto YouTube. Not on my YouTube. I do have a playlist of all the lives that I do on Instagram that I keep, but I put the live embedded in my blog on my website. So if you want to see this again later and follow along, or just watch it again later for any reason, it should be up in my blog. Pending that I could save the video. Let's just pray that I can do it. I know it filmed vertically, so it's probably, I'll probably have to just upload it vertically. I don't know what YouTube does with that. I did it once before, but I can't remember. Any case, I will take photos of the stuff that I've done as well, so you can get a closer look at that on the blog post. That's why I like to put it there, so you can actually see some of the blog posts, and then I can link some of the supplies that I've used as well, if I can find them online for you. But yeah, fingers crossed that this saves and I can upload it. Thank you so much for having a nice chat with me this afternoon. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, or a great start to your week, depending on which hemisphere you're in and what time zone you're in. I will see you again real soon. Bye.